Okay, so everyone says that we don't know what ancient megalithic sites like Göbekli Tepe or Stonehenge, everyone says we don't know what they are. But actually, we do. They're memory sites. But that won't mean anything to you. Not yet. Because first you have to find out how do myth and memory and sending messages across time connect up with megalithic sites. So let's start with sending messages across time. Because have you ever thought, how did our ancient ancestors send their knowledge from generation to generation? How did they pass along their experience? If you're like, no, Sarah Booth, they wrote it down. No. I'm talking about before writing. Before writing, you have to remember everything that you know. So how do you remember all of the animals and the plants and the insects that are around you? How do you know when to hunt and where to gather? How do you remember how to get from here to there, no matter where you're going? And how do you hand down all of your laws, your moral codes, and your genealogy so you don't go making babies with people in your own family? I mean, what are you going to do? Write it down? No. Well, our ancient ancestors figured this out. Who knows how many thousands of years ago? And we know exactly how they did it because the author of the memory code, Dr. Lynne Kelly, she found out from the people who would actually know, Aboriginal Australians and American Indians. And you know what they told her? They said, we use mnemonic devices. So you're passing information down orally, right? You have to find ways of making it easy to remember and hard to lose. And everyone knows that stories and sayings and songs are sticky. They stick in your memory. Red sky at night, sailors delight. Red sky at morning, sailors take warning. I before E, except after C. Everyone knows that it's easy to remember repetition in rhythm and rhyme. Repetition in rhythm and rhyme. Repetition in rhythm and rhyme. Lions and tigers and bears. Oh my! You know, United States, Canada, Mexico, Panama, Haiti, Jamaica, Peru, Republic Dominican, Cuba, Caribbean, Greenland, El Salvador too. Remember that song? Because I do. It's a song, and songs are sticky. Okay, to sort of Sarah Boothify Dr. Kelly, you weave everything that you know into your mythology. And one way that you do it actually is by turning the animals around you into these larger than life characters who go on magical adventures doing wildly outrageous, unrealistic deeds. And you tell your stories this way, not because you believe that that story is literally true. No. You do it because, like Dr. Kelly says, making myths vivid makes them more memorable. And that is exactly what you're going for when you're trying to send information across time. You're trying to make it easy to remember and hard to lose. So, for example, if you belong to the Dhurawal people in Australia, you tell the story of Burri Burri. And this story has characters like Guwala, the small man with big arms who's rowing your people to safety across this big body of water, and a baranga, a big vessel that they stole from Burri Burri. Now, in the story, while he's rowing, Guwala's kind of boasting. He's like, look at my big arms. I've got strong arms. I'll get us there. as he's boasting, he starts growing fur and a big black nose and big funny ears. And then after all of this epic fighting on this magical, adventurous escape from Buri, finally, your people have reached land. And Gowalla, he's exhausted from rowing. And he's crying because he's ashamed of how he looks. And so, climbing the nearest tree and hugging it, he falls asleep. Now, Gowalla is a real animal. They're small like Gowalla. They have big, strong arms, big black noses, big funny ears, and a piercing cry. And they really do sleep in eucalyptus trees for 20 hours a day in Australia. What kind of animal is Gowalla? Gowalla, Gowalla, koala, koala. It's a koala. So do you see? Myths are magical because you can do tons of different things with myths. Like at their most basic level, this story is, just pure entertainment. It's interesting, right? But on a higher level, it's also teaching you how to identify koalas, even if you've never seen one before. And so, no one has to tell you what they look like. No one has to tell you what they sound like. No one has to tell you how they behave. You just know it because it's implied in the story. Plus, on another level, myths actually teach you how to behave. So what do you want to bet? That if your Durawal mama said, don't be like Gowalla, you would know that's a metaphor that means don't be boastful. Or maybe even don't be a crybaby. So this is just one sliver of a story. Now imagine that all of your knowledge, everything that you know, is taught to you through myths. It's taught to you through songs. And at first, those story songs, they teach you right from wrong. But imagine as you get older, as you get initiated into those stories, imagine that you learn how to decode what else the myths mean. Imagine finding out that these characters in your stories and the places that they go, imagine being like, oh, these are real places and real animals around me. Imagine learning which bird to listen for to find your way back to land. Imagine being initiated into deeper levels of these myths and learning to decode the metaphors on an even higher level. Imagine finding out that the messages hidden in the story, they're teaching you survival information, like where to find food during a drought, where to find resources like red ochre and flint and obsidian, food, water, even shelter. Imagine realizing that there's a reason that your Yanayuwa elders tell you that the sounds that are coming from the Flinders Mountains is a snake and it's turning around. And that if you don't settle down, the snake will vomit and it will hurt your people. Imagine realizing the real reason is because it's 3 different kinds of warnings. Number 1, it's a great way of getting kids to behave. Like, settle down or the snake's going to get you, right? We know what that's like. But it's also a warning that tells you what to do when you're around these Australia's like zillions of different poisonous snakes. But on an even higher level, it's a warning about these radioactive snakes of uranium that are running through the ground. Yes, Aboriginal Australians knew that the uranium was there in the ground. They knew it was dangerous and they warned each other. So think about this. Imagine understanding multiple messages just because of one metaphor about a snake. And you know what else I found while researching? How about that the myths from Rapa Nui, aka Easter Island, those myths told the islanders when to sow, when to reap, when to fish. It even told them when to surf. Like, that is so cool, right? And you know, in ancient Sumer, women taught each other how to make beer by turning the recipe into a story song. So the point is that with just one myth, you could send multiple messages and tons of information, and you're doing it all at the same time. And so you would know tons of these songs because you'd have a story song for everything, right? And each one is encoded with layers and layers and layers of information. Here's what I want you to get out of this. This information is useful. It's practical. It's rational. It's just disguised as a story. And that's why when you and I hear myths, we don't know what they mean. We have no idea. We don't hear all of the knowledge and the life lessons and the information that's packed inside because we're not initiated. We don't have the keys that unlock the metaphors and those deeper levels of meaning. Plus, we're only given the public story songs that are meant for children. So a lot of people see myths as these childish explanations of the world. But we are the ones who are myth understanding, because people don't know how oral cultures used myths to preserve and pass on information. But now, guess what? You do. And you want to know one more thing that's fascinating about using stories as mnemonic devices? You didn't just tell your knowledge as stories. You sang it. You danced it. You chanted it. Because these are rituals. And rituals are things that you repeat. And repetition helps you remember. Remember? And you performed these rituals not because you were worshiping, but because you were remembering. Acting out information activates your memory. Remember? Acting out information activates your memory. So do you see what I'm saying here? Stories store information. You'd sing your stories because repetition and rhythm and rhyme makes those story songs, the myth, all of the information that's encoded inside, it makes it sticky. You couldn't just write down everything that you needed to know or remember, right? But if you know the songs and you know how to decode them, you have access to this complete guide to life. So now doesn't it make sense why myths are so unrealistic? This is why. Making myths vivid makes them more memorable. And that is exactly what you're going for when you're trying to send information across time. So do you see what this means? You guys, this is so important. This is why we tell stories. This is like the origin myth for stories. Listen to me. Read my lips. This is why we tell stories. Everyone thinks that myths are just made up malarkey that people who were magical thinkers used to explain a world that they didn't understand. But we are the ones who are misunderstanding. The truth is that stories are like a memory bank for your knowledge. And the information that they store is rational, it's practical, it's useful. And they have the special power that allows them to send that information across time. But story songs are not the only way that our ancestors remembered information. There's actually another ingenious technology that Dr. Kelly found out about. And it explains something we don't understand.